So I'm Kate Warren, here with Nick Williams, part 2. Now we've been talking about this idea that, many people have a sort of suffering ethic. They think work is not somehow supposed to be enjoyable. And I think also, I certainly encounter with clients doing very conventional work. They're meeting someone else's expectations, who's some imaginary other person. I know, the work that I did a master's degree in history there, and I thought, well, I've got to have a job doing that now because that's what my parents expect. I invested in my education.
Sure.
They might have sort of expected that, but what they really wanted was for me to be happy. And I'm curious to know from your perspective, 20 plus years on of running a business that's from the heart and of being yourself at work, what's that been like?
Full of challenges and full of joys. Because you're right, I think, so many of us are programmed around work by expectations of family, society, or at least what we thought they expected, because I'm not often sure those expectations are right, but what we think they expected of us, so we're always trying to fit in like that. So for me, my threshold was, do I do what I think I should do, or do I do what I really feel called to? And I think that's where many people have to split. It's like, to me, following a vocation, following a sense of calling, following our heart, is quietening the voices on the outer world, if you like, and listening to the voices of our own inner world, our own heart, our own soul.
And that's a journey that goes on, isn't it? It's like peeling an onion. It's not as though you think, I've decided to follow my calling today, and it's all obvious from here on out. You and I have talked a lot before about the business of following your heart. It's a complex business, because lots of games come into play.
Sure. So I've been doing that for the last 20 years, and I wouldn't have missed it for anything. And it's been challenging. And I talk a lot about there's been a lot of learning to do. Learning how to be entrepreneurial, learning how to run a business. When I came from a background where nobody ever ran a business and nobody was entrepreneurial, they all went to work and had jobs. But as much as anything, I think for me it's been about unlearning. I feel like I'm in a lifelong recovery program from the beliefs that I grew up with. Beliefs about work must be difficult and all that stuff. And, my kind of religious Methodist upbringing about, don't feel too good about yourself, sin is a pride, and all that kind of stuff that I grew up with. So I feel like I'm still, 20 years down the line at age 52, I'm still in recovery from all the things that I grew up with. Yeah, so I think the undoing is a lifelong journey. But, don't wait until you're fully undone and fully formed before you start the next stage.
My own perspective would be the undoing happens much faster when you get out there and start answering the calling. Everything's tough when it's hypothetical. It's just much easier when it's really happening.
Yeah.
So any thoughts you would have for anybody watching this who's just starting to think that maybe they're in a work-shaped hole that isn't quite the same shape as them?
Allow yourself to really kind of dream and say, okay, in an ideal scenario, what would be the full expression of me and my gifts and my talents? Just allow your kind of mind to play with that. Because, I did that 20 odd years ago, and part of me thought, I must be crazy. I'm a computer salesman from Essex, thinking that he could inspire people and educate people and write books and have an impact. Who the heck do I think I am? Yeah, that's the life I'm living 20 odd years later. So I think in retrospect, what I can say is what seems like just an idea could well be your calling waiting to be pursued and followed. So treasure your most heartfelt ideas. And believe in your capacity to change and transform. Because it is a change and a transformational journey. For me, it's still ongoing transformation. But be willing to take consistent baby steps. I didn't quit my job and then decide whether I could become a speaker, for example. I was in my job selling computers for several years whilst I was kind of training in psychology, and I started giving my first public talks and started doing stuff. So I gave myself a taste of what I thought I wanted to do, and when I tasted it, I thought, this is it. I would love to build my life around what I've only spent 2 hours doing at the moment. But I knew that I wanted to spend my life doing that kind of stuff, being in service, being creative, helping other people, being in, all the stuff I do today. So give yourself opportunities to taste it. And then for me, it's a journey of courage to say, yeah, I'm just going to expand and expand and expand and shed all my skins and become who I really am, and also get really skillful. For me, it's a marriage of head and heart. It's follow your heart, but get really intelligent.
And be willing to develop a craft, it sounds like. Also, develop a new set of skills and get really good at them. You might not be doing what you do.
No, and be willing to be bad to start with.
I know all about that from my own experience. Being willing to mess up in public when there's a lot at stake.
I like that idea of, every master was once a disaster.
I treasured a book in the early years of my business called Failing Forward. That's what I'm doing. I'm failing all the time, but it's all forward motion. I'm not going backwards.
No.
Definitely not going backwards. Nick, massively inspiring.
Well,
Thank you.
pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity.